The moon was blood red the night Daniel McKinley buried his past in the cornfield. He stood alone in the cool October wind, shovel in hand, boots pressed into the black soil of his family farm in southern Indiana. The corn swayed around him like ghosts. And with every scoop of earth he threw over the small wooden box, he hoped it would take the pain with it. But the land remembers everything. Daniel hadn't been back to McKinley Farm in 10 years. Not since his younger brother, Jacob, vanished on the night of the harvest, the night their family fell apart. Daniel had left the next morning with nothing but a duffel bag and his guilt, swearing he'd never return. But when the letter came from his mother, asking him to come home one last time before the bank claimed what was left of the land, he couldn't ignore it. The McKinley legacy was rotting like a forgotten crop. And now he was back, his hands blistered, his heart heavier than the shovel in his grip. His mother, Ellen, waited on the porch, wrapped in her late husband's coat. She looked smaller than he remembered, her hair silver instead of blonde, her shoulders bent from years of grief and labor. The farmhouse creaked behind her like it was holding its breath. "You didn't have to dig out the north field tonight," she said softly. "I had to," Daniel replied. "That's where it started. That's where it has to end." Challenge 1, A Brother Lost. When Daniel was 16 and Jacob was 10, the McKinleys hosted the largest harvest in town. It was tradition, neighbors helping neighbors, baskets of corn, hayrides, and warm cider around bonfires. That night, Jacob had gone missing. Some said he wandered off into the fields. Some said he ran away. But Daniel remembered the last thing his brother said to him. "They're calling me, Danny. Can't you hear them? They're in the corn." Everyone thought it was a game. Jacob had always been imaginative, always talking to shadows. But when the sun rose and he hadn't returned, panic turned into suspicion. And suspicion turned into silence. The town blamed the McKinleys. The family blamed Daniel. He was supposed to be watching Jacob. He never forgave himself. Challenge 2, The Curse of the Land. That night, back inside the house, Daniel walked the old floorboards, haunted by memories. His father's whiskey still stained the wood. The walls still echoed with arguments and prayers. And above it all, the wind outside still carried the sound of the corn rustling, whispers that seemed almost deliberate. Ellen confessed something that night over tea. Her voice was brittle, but the words hit like thunder. "It wasn't the first time, Daniel," she said. "A child disappears every few decades. Always near the harvest. Your great-grandfather knew. That's why he never let us pick at night. Your father, he didn't believe. Until Jacob." Daniel stared at her, confused. "What do you mean, knew?" "Midnight harvest," she said. "That's what they called it. The land demands a soul to keep the crops thriving. It's old. It's dark. And we ignored it." Daniel didn't want to believe it. But the memories, the strange things he'd heard as a boy, the feeling that the field watched him, they came rushing back. The land had fed them, clothed them, built their home. And all it had asked in return was silence. Challenge 3, Facing the Midnight. Determined to uncover the truth, Daniel returned to the field that had taken his brother. Armed with only a lantern, his father's hunting knife, and the box he'd buried, Jacob's favorite toy, his drawings, a photo of them both, he entered the rows of corn at exactly midnight. The temperature dropped instantly. The wind died. The field was unnaturally still. And then, the whispers began. "Daniel! Daniel!" Figures moved between the stalks, children, pale and quiet, eyes wide with sorrow. One by one, they emerged. Jacob among them, no older than the night he disappeared, his face unchanged. "Jacob," Daniel breathed, dropping to his knees. His brother smiled faintly. "You came back." "I'm sorry," Daniel whispered. "I should have protected you." Jacob nodded. "It's not your fault. The land shows. But it's tired now. It's ready to rest." A dark shape began to rise behind the corn, towering, faceless, made of soil and root and shadow. The spirit of the harvest. It reached toward Daniel, silent and massive. I'm not running, Daniel said, standing between it and Jacob. Take me. Let him go. The shadow paused. Jacob stepped forward and held Daniel's hand. No more, he said. We don't belong to you anymore. With that, Jacob and the other children walked forward into the figure. Light erupted. The corn trembled. The soil cracked. And then all fell still. When Daniel awoke, the sun was rising. The field was empty. No whispering. No shadow. Just corn, golden and ready to reap. Resolution, a harvest of peace. Daniel stayed. He rebuilt the farmhouse. Replanted the fields with care, not obligation. Ellen passed quietly that spring, smiling in her sleep, her hand wrapped around a faded photo of her boys. In time, the McKinley farm became something new. A place for lost kids, for second chances, for healing. Daniel ran it with purpose, sharing stories and harvests that brought the community back together. Each year, on the night of the harvest, he lit a lantern and placed it at the edge of the cornfield. Not out of fear, but in memory. Of Jacob. Of the past. Of how sometimes, facing the darkness is the only way to bring in the light. Midnight harvest wasn't about crops. It was about sacrifice, healing, and redemption. It was about choosing to break the cycle, about standing up, even when you're alone. Because in the silence of the field, with pain behind you and hope ahead, you learn the greatest truth of all. We are not what haunts us. We are what we choose to plant after.